Thank you so much for joining the community dinner. The community dinner committee welcomes you all. Inshallah, as I said, we have childcare program, we have music program. Please use that facility. And also, like we have Sheikh Mufti Azimuddin here. Inshallah, it's very known to our Chicagoland. I don't need any introduction for him. Inshallah, he will speak with us in a few minutes. Before that, I would like to introduce Brother Imtiaz Rahman, who's here. So he's part of CEC committee, which is Civic Engagement Committee. Inshallah, ICL is very good at doing the civic engagement programs as well. As more we do the religious program, we also try to do the civic engagements program. So the election is coming around. Inshallah, Brother Imtiaz will talk more about that. They're having an event which is coming up on October 6th. Is that correct, Imtiaz, right? October 6th, right? So they're having an event on October 6th. Inshallah, Brother Imtiaz will give more information on that. And then immediately we will start the program. And any sisters, if you would like to come and sit in the men's prayer hall, please feel free to come. Inshallah, we have a lot of space in the back.
To commend the effort of the dinner committee led by Brother Rahman, Brother Rabidi, for bringing this fabulous program to us and also bringing scholars like this. Thank you very much. There's a message from the community engagement committee that I would like to convey to you. This is led by Mr. Fatima. I think that most of the neighborhood community is the first generation community, and we spend most of our time in establishing ourselves, alhamdulillah, and bringing our children, mashallah. But at the cost of basically neglecting our other commitments like public service and getting engaged with the mainstream America. So for that effort, there's a committee, renewed committee, civic engagement committee, have several programs like Brother Rahman mentioned on October 6th on Sunday evening, and also Friday, October 18th is another event. So the goal is that either we be part of the decision making by being on the table or be on the planning, where the decisions are made despite what we think, despite what our values are, and despite what we like or do not like to do. So for that, this committee has engaged these programs, so please attend those. Now, and one of the programs, not only know about the candidates, that who will be coming and representing themselves and their preferences and focus and be vote, but also the effort is to bring up and encourage and place our own Muslim brothers and sisters on the positions of power. Positions of power, it could be your PTA committee, there's your homeowners association, it could be the library, your city, your municipality, your county, of course, in the state and federal level. And I'm sure that when he's talking about the upbringing of children, he would also focus on the aspect of civic engagement, activism, and also how to engage mainstream. Thank you very much. And also we need, of course, volunteers, and we expect this committee to be almost 50 people. So whoever is interested in the capacity, please see me or Sister Fatima. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Imtiaz. Looks like a good crowd on the sister side. Inshallah, if any sisters want to come to the men's side, please feel free to come. Inshallah, we have a lot of space in the back. So we'll just wait for 30 seconds for sisters to walk in. And Mufti Sahib is ready. Brothers, can you just, if you can move forward, that would be great help for us, inshallah. There is still without further delay. I would like to call upon Mufti Azharuddin. Inshallah, he is very known to our Chicago lab. I'm not going to spend time on introducing him, inshallah. I will give it to him, and then the pattern of the program is like Mufti Sahib will speak for maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And after that, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask these questions. And Mufti Sahib will try to address for 5 to 10 minutes. Now that would be the agenda today. Inshallah, I'll give it to Mufti Sahib.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى ال سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا الا ما علمتنا انك انت العليم الحكيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا اللهم نور قلوبنا بعلمك واستعمل اقدامنا لطاعتك ووفقنا لما تحب وترضى من القول والعمل والفعل والنية والهدى إنك على كل شيء قدير يا وهاب يا وهاب يا وهاب يا فتاح يا فتاح يا فتاح يا جبار يا جبار يا جبار. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. صدق الله العظيم. Honorable, respected guests of Allah, your brothers and sisters and youngsters, Alhamdulillah, Allah has gathered us in His house tonight, and we're here to share a few words, to listen to a few words about the Deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and its practical application, of course, in our lives. I ask all of you to ask Allah in this next half hour that we have with each other, that He allows us to hear such things that would be absolutely relevant to our own individual lives. I ask Allah Azza wa Jalla that He inspires me to share such words which will become a means of answering many issues, answering many questions, removal of many doubts that any one of us are going through. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He is Mu'ti, He is the one who gives. If we are sincere in our prayer, then we will find our sitting here, inshallah, for half an hour can become extremely invaluable. And within half an hour, a person can gain such things that will be effectively beneficial to them for the rest of their lives. The topic of raising successful youth and the role of the family and the household is what is at hand. Honorable listeners, we are at a very interesting time in life right now, in the history of this earth, in the history of humanity. Someone just before Maghrib, where I was in another place, where they was telling me the crisis. For example, there's so many different ways to look at this and unfold by the hour in the Middle East. It's something that all of us here have never seen the likes of this in our lives. And the amount of different places where conflict is becoming large. That is one only field. Then the other aspect of the other aspect of the presence of technology, or specifically social media, cell phones, unfettered access to the internet that has entered into every pocket of every member of the household, is something also unprecedented. The access to any and all information, that which should be reserved for people who are in their 50s and 40s, those who have studied many things. For that type of knowledge to be available to a young, developing mind, 6, 8, 10, 12-year-old, is something also unheard of. So there are so many things, where do we list? So many things that were not found in previous centuries, previous decades, that we see are happening today. And all of them have an effect on every one of us, our homes, and then our communities, and then the Ummah at large. Because the Ummah at large is made up of different communities. And the communities are made up, of course, of different families. The strength of the community lies in the strength of the family. And our deen didn't come as a separate individual. We are not an individualistic society. Instead, we are such a communal society that the Prophet ﷺ said that Jibreel Ameen kept on coming back to me, and instructing me and telling me about the rights of neighbors that I thought soon
we are going to be told that the neighbor will also inherit from us upon our death. Think about the depth of what I just said. But the Prophet is saying the amount of rights that the neighbor has. And Jibreel kept on coming and saying, add this, add this, add this. I don't know, the next thing it seems like he is going to also get a share of our inheritance. It didn't go to that. That's what it seems. If this is the right of a neighbor, regardless of whether he or she is Muslim or not, then imagine the right of our uncles and aunts, our grandparents and parents, our children, our siblings. Unbelievable. We are not an individualistic society. Muslims are meant to be communal people. And that community starts right at home. Hence, it is mentioned that Silatul Rahim, taking care of our relatives and the rights of relatives. This Rahim itself on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give it a shape and a form on the Day of Judgment. And this Rahim will go to the throne of Allah and say, Ya Allah, so and so he took care of me, please forgive him. Allah will give it a shape and a form. And Silatul Rahim, taking care of the relatives, that component, that action will go to the throne of Allah and intercede on behalf of those people who took care of it. But Ya Allah, this man, this lady took care of me, please take care of them today. Allow them to enter paradise. And the opposite also will apply. That those individuals that did not practice Silatul Rahim, they broke ties with their siblings, broke ties with their parents, grandparents, children, in-laws, you name it, all sorts of people. Then Silatul Rahim will also speak to Allah, go to the throne and say, Allah, this individual did not fulfill my rights, did not take care of me. Ya Allah, today you take care of him. SubhanAllah. That this is the role that taking care of relations and the responsibilities and the rights of it, that is the dome, that is a responsibility that Islam gives upon our shoulders. It's a very, very lengthy topic. But what we see today is that the dysfunctionality that we see in society, the individualism that is taken over in societies all across the world, in the East and of course in the West, and within our own Muslim communities. That is where a person, if you don't have time for your brother, or you don't have time for your parents, if you don't have time for your grandparents, if you don't have time for your in-laws, then most definitely we're not going to be able to do justice to our own kids. We're definitely not going to be able to do justice to our own spouse. It may seem like we are, but it's not possible. Because this is all together. The children are watching. The children are watching how does not mom and dad, how much they take me to soccer practice and football practice, and how they take care of me, take me to swimming classes and after school science classes, and take me for a camping and take me for vacation. They also watch, to what degree do my parents take care of their parents? To what degree do my parents take care of their relatives? And there are so many stories of them. What goes around comes around. And right here in this world, Allah Azza wa Jalla will show undutiful sons and daughters the punishment in this world. There are hadiths to say that there are few sins that Allah does not wait to punish till the akhirah. And from amongst those sins that Allah does not wait to punish till the Day of Judgment is disrespect towards parents. That is something Allah Azza wa Jalla starts the punishment right here in this world. Every single man today or woman who's suffering at the hands of disobedient children, at the hands of a difficult marriage, they probably will tell you privately that they know why this is happening. Because long ago, they've done things that they shouldn't have with their parents. And now it's coming to bite them. Their parents are gone. They passed away possibly. No way to go even, there's no recourse. They're gone. But Allah's system is such. Allah says, Ahsahu Allah wa nasu. People act and forget. Allah never forgets. Allah never forgets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remembers every action that a person does. If we want successful communities, if we want a united ummah, before we go to any international forum, before we go to any international conference, it really starts off from the individual home. That we have to ensure that there is unity within each and every individual house. I cannot change what's happening in your home. You cannot change what's happening in his home. Each of us is a responsible amir of our own home. We have to ensure that we do not allow a dysfunctional family to be created under our watch. Brothers, if they ask inshallah, please come forward against the if their sisters there, please let's not sit against the wall right next to them. Let's move forward, inshallah, brothers. Move forward, inshallah. Even if the sisters were not there, I'm sure told you to sit in front. But nonetheless, now here, so we want to make sure that there's comfortable distance there. So the idea of a successful community and a successful united ummah that is in the hearts and the minds of all of us. We need to understand the start from that is a household. And inshallah, when we start working on our household, then we will see naturally successful children come out. Dear brothers and sisters, there's a saying that al-awlad, the rijal, la yuladun, but yusna'un. True great men, they're not just born. Great men and great women are made. They're created. They're built. It's not just like, well, I was born like this. Allah also has given the responsibility to the family and the parents of the tarbiyah. And that tarbiyah and that nurturing is what makes amazing individuals. Especially when it comes to character development. That is something that is the crisis of today. The loss of character. The loss of principles. The loss of hayat and modesty. That no school and no book and no educational system can give you that the way parents can. The first madrasa and the first school is the lap of the mother. It starts from there. And moving forward, those initial 7 years, 8 years at home is where a person is made. And after that, no matter where they're thrown into, the akhlaq and character that they learn at a young age stick with them for the rest of their lives. It's mentioned in the books. A mother brought her young 5-year-old to the sheikh and said, "Sheikh, can you please accept him in your company? I would like you to teach him." Previously, people would bring their children to the scholars and the ulama, not to teach them qaida nazira first, or rather to teach them etiquette, how to sit, how to talk, how to act. That's more important than anything else. So the sheikh told her, "This is the wrong age. You want me to teach adab? This is the wrong age." How old is he? 5 years old. She said, "No problem. Okay, inshallah, I'll bring him back later on." "What age should I bring him at?" He said, "No, you missed the point. He's already too old. You don't start teaching etiquette at the age of 5. Their personality traits have already been developed. That starts at a much, much younger age, where a child is being taught what is acceptable or what's not acceptable, what behavior is acceptable and what's not, how to act in front of your grandparents, how to act in front of your parents, how to act in front of your siblings, how to act in front of an outsider, a guest, a neighbor, classmates in school. These are things that have to be taught at a very, very young age. Today's educational system, preschool, kindergarten, will teach basic things. Will be disrupted. Follow directions. Walk in single line to the water fountain and to the gym. MashaAllah, they're learning that. But beyond that, anything else, how to speak to the mom, how to speak to the dad, how to speak to the elders, how to sit in front of them, those things are definitely not going to be taught there. Those are things that they are supposed to be taught at home. In Morocco, there's a habit when someone does something that you want to appreciate them for. We have the sunnah method, which we all hopefully adhere to, that you want to thank someone, you say, "Jazakum Allahu khayran." May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you with greatness, with goodness, and you pray for them. In Morocco, they have in their part of their culture, and possibly in other northern African countries, but I know about specific Morocco, is that they always add one more statement with that. They say, "Rahimallahu walidayk wa jazakum Allahu khayran." May Allah subhanahu subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on your parents and may Allah reward you the best. Anytime you want to appreciate someone, they always make dua for the parents. Why is that? It's because the character, because the man, he helped you carry the box to your car. The brother stopped while after everyone in masjid left, you're sitting there, your car is not starting. Allah forbid, your tire is punctured. The brother was leaving, he made a U-turn, came back and helped change your tire. Why did you do that? Why are you not going to say Jazakallah khairan? Because this young man or young lady or whoever they may be are doing what they're doing because they come from a home in which etiquette was taught. So today we are benefiting from them, but we don't want to forget who taught them that and make dua for them. It was their parents who made them into how they are today. Abu Darda radiallahu anhu, amazing hadith. One night, Abu Darda, his wife Darda saw that he is spending the night making dua. He said, Allahumma kama hassanta khalqi fa hassin qulubi. This is the dua that is to be recited when we look into the mirror. Allahumma kama hassanta khalqi. Oh Allah, the way you have beautifully made my features and my nature, or rather my external nature and my features of my body, khalqi, fa hassin khuluqi. Oh Allah, also beautify my character. This is a dua. We look at this deen, man, it's just like unbelievable. Where do you find a religion like this that teaches you a dua for everything, including when you look in the mirror? You're grooming your hair, you're washing your face, you are marveling, mashallah, how beautiful you look before you leave the home. Okay, no problem, mashallah. But hey, guess what? External beauty is just a tiny part. The real beauty is not in your clothes. It's not in your cosmetics. It's not in your gear. Real beauty is in your character. And so our deen teaches us that even at that moment, whether you are a bride for the night or you are going for your interview in a high-rise building and you're dressed up for the occasion, you're looking at the mirror, do not get carried away by your own beauty. Focus on developing internal beauty. And that's when you look in the mirror, that, oh Allah, just like you have made me externally beautiful, please make me internally beautiful as well. So this is the dua Abu Darda is making at night. His wife hears him reciting this dua. So she says to him, oh my husband, why are you spending the night asking Allah specifically for this dua? He tells her, my dear, if this dua is accepted on my behalf, meaning my character actually becomes beautiful, then two things will happen. One is I will constantly be receiving rewards. I will constantly, while I'm asleep, also I will have people making dua for me. And number two, this is one of the best ways to thank and appreciate who? My parents. Wow, how deep the Sahabi thought. Meaning, if my character truly becomes beautiful, then every day I will be helping people. I will be nice to people. I will defend people's honor. I will forgive people. I will come back home and go to sleep. I'm not doing dhikr. I'm not reciting Quran. I'm not pressing my mother's feet. I'm not giving sadaqah. I'm sleeping. But the people I had an impact on, the people who I helped throughout the day, they go back to their homes. They are thinking, man, today, what an angel. God, an angel came in my life and took care of XYZ. So I'm sleeping peacefully while someone else cannot sleep because they are feeling overwhelmed and indebted to my parents. And they are doing what? Making dua for me. They are making dua. I want all of you immigrant brothers and sisters here to think. The first day of yours in America. Now think about it right now. Your first day in America, your first hour when you landed at an airport here. Imagine who picked you up. And if you had no one to pick up, you took a taxi. Who was the first person you met that day? On the first day in America. Think about that second day of your first week in America. That someone said, let's go, and we're going to teach you how to drive. And we're getting you a driver license. That third day, someone helped you open up a bank account. Think about that person. No matter where you are, you can never forget who that person is. You can never forget their face. You can never forget their name. It might have been 50 years ago, but you will never forget that individual. Because today you're sitting and your kids and grandkids are sitting here due to someone assisting you on that first day in America. That's what character is about. That you will always remain indebted for the person who helped you. And so Abu Darda radiallahu anhu, he wants to invest. You have limited time to make dua. He wants to make such a dua that will give him the highest return on his investment. So he said, if my akhlaq become good, then I could be sleeping all night. But because I have touched so many people's hearts, they will be making dua for me, and I will be getting reward for it, even though I'm sleeping. Number two, if my dua gets accepted and my character becomes great, I will have an impact on people's lives, and I will benefit them. They will be happy with me, and the reward of this good character will go back to who? My parents. And I'm indebted to my parents. I want to do something for them. What can I do? The best thing I can do is to have the best character, so that I have 1,000 people making dua for me, but all of that dua will be forwarded onto my mom and dad. They will be getting the ajr for it. What deep thought of Abu Darda radiallahu anhu. So this is the role of the household in developing a successful young man or young woman. When we define success, most of our community members define success as, we know it, let's not hide it. Success is talking about career success. More specifically, not doing what you want to do, enjoy doing, or what's impactful for the world, but very materialistically, what brings in the most cash. That's it. Every father and mother, generally speaking, want to have such kids who have very high earning jobs. Through hook or crook, high earning jobs. But in reality, we will find out very soon in our old age, before the day of judgment, and before our death, that that's not the criteria of success. Criteria of success, number one, is character development. The one who cannot take care of his mom and dad will never be able to take care of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rights. Because your mom and dad are in front of you. If you're disrespectful to the mother's hand that feeds you, to the dad who pays everything you have, how can you be respectful to that Allah who is providing everything, but from the hidden world, who you cannot see? If a person likes the very hand that feeds him, how will a person ever be respectful to the hidden hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? My dear friends, children are born innocent. The verse I recited at the beginning of today's presentation. This is the innate nature that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created people. Every child is born. It is later on his parents. You will make him into a Jew. Or Christian. Or a Zoroastrian fire worshiper. But every child is born originally with fitrah Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us innocent children in our homes. It is a responsibility of the parents and the entire household to work toward preserving the innocence of that child and to allow that child to grow beautiful. I remember Sa'id al-Khudri rahimahullah used to come to Chicago many years ago. Once, after speaking in one masjid, one of the sisters asked, if a lady or mother, both mother and father, did not raise a child properly, and now the child at the age of 16, 18 has come out real bad, and we did not do what we were supposed to do, but now the child is completely out of hands, are you responsible for it? And the answer he gave is that when you place a seed in it, when you put a seed into the ground, when a plant starts growing, after a seed germinates, it grows out straight, a young plant. However, a tree, after some time, it may start growing to the right or to the left. It is the responsibility of the gardener to place a stick, a metal stick of some sort in the ground, a stake, to force this tree to not bend right or left, but instead to grow up straighter. If after 15 years, the gardener didn't do anything, and one day he comes and he sees the entire tree is bent, 90 degree almost, what can he do to this tree? There's no way to fix this. Mistakes were made 15 years ago. He said, how would the gardener not be responsible for this mistake? When we make mistakes, not only are we paying the price, but unfortunately our entire generation suffers. Poor innocent kids have to go to hell after they grow up, because no one taught them that you don't speak dirty language. No one spoke to them that, you know what, that is unacceptable in the presence of elders to say something like this. These are teachings that our moms and dads, the elders sitting here, our all elders here, they, subhanAllah, every one of us came from a community across the globe in which haya was taught, ingrained within us. Even if someone didn't pray, the mom and dad, they would not allow something that went against the dictates of haya, because it was just not acceptable. That's not what we do. We're Muslims. We might be a little bit lazy in prayer, but hey, we have character. And we're not proud that we don't pray. Inshallah, people start praying. But when it comes to fuhsh and lewdness, that's something that doesn't match with the Muslim. We need to go back to the original basics in which you and I were raised with. Maulana Sulaiman Mullah, one of my teachers, he says sometimes in his talks, he says, as moms and dads, especially immigrants to this country, one thing you'll hear very often, they say, I want to give my children an opportunity that I was not given growing up. I want my children's future to be better than my own. I want to provide them a childhood that I didn't have. Okay, well said, great, go ahead and do that. But then he says, you also at times need to provide them those things of your childhood that you didn't have. Provide them some of the things of your childhood that you didn't have. What are those things? Character development. Those are things that are so important. And inshallah, ta'ala, as moms and dads, as young couples, mashallah, of course, a lot of young married couples, I implore you to not look down upon the importance of character development. Memorization of surahs and doing projects in school are great, but there's nothing more important that when you see something wrong, you correct it. You correct it not with harshness, but you correct it with softness. You correct it with kindness. I share with you a personal story. A year ago, my mother, may Allah grant all of our mothers long life and health. I was sitting on my sofa. My dear son was sitting a few feet away, reading a book. And my mother was passing by, walking by in our home. And she told my son, Beta, sit right. So he was sitting reading a novel. He sat right. They said, Beta, sit up right. And then he moved up a little bit more. And I'm doing my own thing on my phone or whatnot. We're waiting for someone to come pick us up around 10 o'clock. Then eventually, she said, Beta, look at how you're sitting. You are sitting on a sofa with your feet pointing towards your thigh. You can't do that. What is he going to say? Thank you. And he sat up right. And it's at those moments where I appreciate the fact that I live with my parents. How many people are deprived of this? How many people have intentionally deprived themselves of having mentors like their own parents to not only keep them on the right track, but also keep their own kids on the right track? This whole aspect of being a large family is central to our being. The presence of parents and grandparents is so important to our character development. There are thousands of instances like this of teaching moments that go in front of us. And if we don't speak up at that time, and if we don't make a correction at that time, we've got no one to blame besides ourselves when the tree comes out crooked. We cannot blame the school system. We cannot blame the masjid programs. We must take responsibility as individuals ourselves. Once I think you go back to the basics. Remember what your mom and dad taught you. Remember what your grandparents taught you. I remember my dad, Allah, he asked for water. I was probably thinking like dump trucks. Where did I bring water? I remember this. 6, 7 years old. I grabbed the glass, quickly got water, and I gave it to him. I remember 2 mistakes I made in 2 different instances. Probably 2 different instances. One instance, I went and grabbed it and I filled up the same Lake Michigan water that is in my tap of the kitchen, of the fridge, and also where? In the vanity of the bathroom. So I filled it up in the vanity of the bathroom and gave it to him. And he scolded me, why should the body get out? You're paying for the bathroom. Same water, right? But I realized, no, I can't do that. That's wrong. Okay, I went and dumped it into the kitchen guy. Another instance is when I gave him water, I brought a glass of water like this. You go, lota. Right? Are you giving a lota to someone in the bathroom? You give a lota like this? This is why you give a lota. You don't give a glass of water like this. How do you give a glass of water? You bring a saucer, a small plate. If not that, you hold on the top like this. Of course, one hand at the bottom, one hand at the top. I was 6 years old playing with my dump trucks. But my dad taught me. That's my point. These are simple things that really make us into the true human beings that we ought to be. And that is something society is no longer teaching. And unfortunately, we as a Muslim community have stopped teaching this as well. You're not going to find any school that focuses on this. The best children out there who have character, good character, it comes from the home. If we start reading about men and women of character, start spending time in the company of people of character, we will be able to develop this within ourselves. If you want to play great basketball, of course you have to train, but you also have to watch great basketball players. You also have to watch a coach and whatnot. Similarly to being good etiquette, we have to watch people who have great etiquette as well. I ask Allah to make me and all of us here men and women of excellent etiquette, excellent akhlaq of that of the Prophet ﷺ, and may He allow all of us married moms and dads here to make an amazing, outstanding effort upon our children and our homes, that they grow up to be the most successful in all facets of their life, and starting off with their character development and their being men and women of principles. And all of those who are crying tonight and making dua for their children who have lost their character, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the prayers of those parents. May Allah accept the tears of those parents. And may Allah bring change within those men and women as well. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen.
And we can pray inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. So let's take some quick rapid fire Q&A, inshallah. And something please relevant to what we spoke about. And then we'll pray inshallah in 10 minutes. Yes. Go ahead.
What if you have a big family? So like if your family is Muslim, but your spouse's family is not Muslim, the convert, for example, and then you still have family values, right? In the sense that you get together, you do things together, but it's different now because family values are different, right? Religious values are different. So how do you balance that when you're still getting together with both the Muslim and the non-Muslim family?
Very good. This is not an uncommon issue. Very common. The question is, mixed faith marriages, husband and wife, both Muslim, alhamdulillah, but one is a convert. So his or her family, one of the families is not Muslim. How do you deal with that? This is a very common issue because you have Muslim families that are getting married, right, most of the time, but values within the families are vastly different. Where the guy comes from a family that is absolutely irreligious, and the girl comes from a family that is very religious, or the vice versa. Girl comes from a family surrounded by Muslims, grew up, and another one surrounded by absolute all non-Muslims. So the value systems are very different. Well, in this case now, it's imperative that the husband and wife are on the same page. As long as the husband and wife are on the same page, doesn't make a difference what's happening. All right? So this is the key thing that we need to understand, that we are on the same page. These are our children. This is our greatest investment. And no one out there can change it. So we have this understanding that when we go to grandpa's house, there may be certain things there that you can't eat. There may be certain things you can't do. Grandma may say things that you just nod your head and smile very much. But you know what? That's it. We don't do stuff like that. Just like when you start to do school. And you have to train them how to act around people of different faiths. And you can't share anything that anyone gives. You can't just eat anything from anyone's lunch. For example, many other, of course, examples that you and I are all accustomed to. So similarly, when we are working with not only mixed revert families, but also families in which values are different, it is extremely important that the husband and wife are on the same page. And that we say, this is our value of and everything outside, including your mom and dad, my mom and dad, they are external spaces. We're going to train our kids before we go to those spaces. And I also add, there's nothing should be more valuable for us than our character development of our own children. As much as we love everyone else in the world, and as much as we will pray for them and try to guide them. But your first responsibility, what do they say in the plane? Before you even put the oxygen mask in your child, put it on your own self. Then on your child. Before you save next to neighbor's children, you have to save your own kids. Before you save your siblings' kids, you have to save your own. So this is going to be a hard choice sometimes you have to make. That you decided to, mashallah, come towards the deen at the age of 30. Your siblings still are stuck where they were, but not on the deen. Hence, their children are also being reared away from the deen. Now you have a family get together. You have all sorts of sleepovers happening. You have to now know how to tactically engage all of this while not compromising on the principles that you want your children to grow up with. It is definitely a difficult pill to swallow, but I promise you, you better do the right decision. Because so many times, we do so much at home only to have our children corrupted by their cousins. Only to have our children corrupted by your best friend's son or daughter. That mom and dad are not like that. But your best friend's children are not on the same level of deen that you've given your children. So now exposure through the cell phone, that's it, man. That's the biggest fitna. You raise your kids without technology. You raise your kids without all of this stuff. And no smartphones for any little kids. But you're going over to your cousin's home, they're going to their cousin's home, and every single 8-year-old's got his own smartphone there. Now mom and dad are enjoying the family get together in the living room. Where are the kids? All the kids are upstairs in the attic, in the basement. Allahu A'lam, what in the world's happening? Within 1 hour, 12, 15 years, or 30 years gone down the drain. Once innocence is lost, you can never bring it back. That's the key thing we have to be very mindful, is that who are our children hanging out with outside of the home as well? And the key thing is, even in the masjid, like right now, wherever we are, right? We have to ensure that children are not just in the masjid. Usually, my mom was telling me recently after listening to a talk on technology and children. We had a beautiful workshop. You should have one as well here if you haven't already done so, on just the latest technologies and how to handle them. We had a psychiatrist come and do it, and it was awesome, mashallah. But my mother was listening to that talk, and she said, raising you all was so much easier than what you all have to do raising your own kids. I said, Mom, really? I know we're alone. We have no relatives, no family. This is in the 80s. We don't have any masjid in the area. We're in the middle of KP. Nothing there. How could it be possible to raise us? How could it be easier to raise us than what it is now? So my mother said something. I said, you know what? We feed you. We take care of the stuff. And she said, go. Then you guys will take your bikes. Then you go around the block. You go around the neighborhood. Come back by another time. You go. You go outside in the forest preserve, in the backyard, play around, come back now. What's going to happen? You're going to come with the worst thing, you come with a scratch. Maybe a little bleeding. But right now, after you finish feeding the kid or eating, the first thing is, what device is he on? And what device is she watching? What is she watching? You never can put your guard down, even in your own home, before you can let your kids be out of the house and feel safe. But today, even with the children inside the house, inside their bedroom, if they have a device there, there's no idea what's going on. So this is a very big part of character development, is watching what exposure do they have to the stuff that's outside there, and teaching them how to engage with technology in a responsible manner. This is very important. We cannot divorce it. Of course, you have to use it, but we have to have checks and balances, so that if a nest becomes strong and someone wants to misuse it, naturally they're young, they want to explore, that there are enough checks and balances in there that it cannot be misused. That was a long answer, but I hope it was comprehensive. Yes, any other questions? Yes. Thank you, Charles.
Dominic,
Yes, sir.
what would be a few bullet points that you have to focus on?
Thank you. All right, few bullet points. We'll end with that, inshallah. Few bullet points. It starts off with one thing is kindness, softness, right? Is really important. Prophet said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives and bestows with kindness and softness, which he doesn't bestow with harshness. In one hadith he said, A household that has been deprived of kindness is deprived of all goodness. Number one rule is that whatever change we want to bring in goodness, you have to do it in a nice way. Softly, with muhabbat and love. Number one. Number two is that understand that we are directly responsible for the upbringing of our children. We cannot leave it to anyone else. And in the process of that, we have to be willing to speak up. You cannot say, I'm not going to say it. With kindness and softness and firmness, we have to speak up. Don't ever say he or she is just a child. This statement is what will destroy that kid. There's a saying, famous saying, my kids know the story, so many guys always tell me. A man stole something, and the judge was proven in front of the judge that he stole a large amount, and his hand had to be severed, cut, up the idea. So he was brought into court. The man said, I want to, see my mom. And he came, his mom thought, he said, I want to give you a kiss. When he comes close to his mother, he bites her really hard on her mouth, on her face. Really hard. Everyone is shocked. What was this about? And then he said that my mother would see me as a young kid, stealing eggs, small little things, and she never stopped. And today I become a big thief and ended committing a huge crime because I wish today I'm losing my hands. If my mother had corrected me at a young age, I would not be in this situation today. Mother and father, they must speak up to their kids with kindness, but still, don't ever say he's too young. He's too young. This is going to destroy them. Whether it's 1.5 years old, 2 years old, teach them how to sit right. Teach them how to be respectful. Teach them how, to act in front of your parents. All those things. Number 3 is at home. Bring spirituality. Do not leave spirituality for the masjid. Bring spirituality in the home. And that is through, for example, every single day, 7 to 8 minutes, reading from an Islamic book. Could be men and women are on the messenger, could be stories of Sahaba, could be a beautiful book I would recommend, Downpour of Blessings. It's called Downpour of Blessings by Ustad Khalid Bey. It is a hadith like Riyadh al-Salihin, but it's got commentary for the modern times. Right? It's called Downpour of Blessings. So that's a book like that. Something that you have 7 to 8 minutes of dini talk at home. Instead of us preaching, let the book preach. Because people don't like preaching parents. Right? So let the book speak. Then add to that dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Let's do it 20 times, 30 times, 50 times. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, 20, 50, 100 times. Durood Sharif, salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, some amount of time. So you have reading from a book, some dhikr, and then conclude with the dua. This is so powerful. Teach your children how to ask for Allah. They gotta learn it. It's not just reserved for Quran. It should happen every day. Teach your kid, whatever she got, Allah will take care of it. Let's do it together. I know you're sad, I know you got an exam tomorrow, you're upset about something, I understand that. Let's try to solve it, but we have to, number one, turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This, inshallah, will be very beneficial in terms of bringing the ruhaniyah and spirituality in the home. That's what it means. Spend time with elders. Spend time with people of character. Go to your own grandparents. Go to your grandparents' siblings. Go to elders. Just sit, spend time with elder people who still retain that character that's been passed down before they pass away. And allow them to absorb that character. I'll end with a story. I was in Makkah al-Mukarram. This story really touched me. That's why I share this. I was in Makkah al-Mukarram reading dinner at one scholar's house. He's an American revert, comes from a revert family. And I was sitting there, and his kids, beautiful kids, were sitting. And we were eating, and I asked his son, oh, how old are you? And his daughter was there. How old is she? So the dad told me she is like 7. So the son, who was maybe 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, said, no, Baba, she is 8. The dad said, 7. The son said, no, she just turned 8. That's like a normal conversation in our homes, right? Pop, come on, you always forget. The father, he looked at his son and he told him, are you correcting me? just look for right in his eyes. Are you correcting your dad? And he looked down and said, I'm sorry. I was eating in the house and I said, SubhanAllah. Would we ever, would I ever do that? Never. I would never correct my dad. And most of us, and you would never imagine these elders, ask them if they would ever correct their dad at the age of 7. You're not at a doctor's office where you're typing in the electronic medical record is going to mess up the dosage of the medication. This is small talk over dinner. Okay, whether it's 7 or 8, it's small talk. But today you're correcting your dad like this. Tomorrow, what you gonna do? You're 7, 8 now. You're saying this to your father in front of guests. You imagine tomorrow what you're gonna say to your dad. Hello, and your mom. So I was very moved by this. I met him 3 years later. I said, you know what, Chick? I remember that story, and I've shared this in many instances. He told me the second part. He said, brother, we don't know anything. You think I know this? He told me this. I'm born in America, a convert family. He said, you think I know this? I learned this from my teachers. I said, oh, really? What happened? He said, I went to Medina al-Munawwar. And his ustad of Qira'ah, Tajweed, is there in Medina. So he said, mashallah, he's a big family. He said, I left my kids in the car, and I took 1 or 2 of them inside to go meet my sheikh. The Tajweed teacher, Qira'ah teacher from Africa. He's living, born and raised in Medina. Probably in the 60s. So he said, I went and sat with him some years ago. My 2 boys were. So the sheikh is talking to me, asking him, he's asking. And every second and third question, what's going on? My sons are also chiming in and answering. 2 boys. After a while, the sheikh looked at him and said, I find this very awkward. The sheikh had his 2 boys with him in the room. How old are his boys? 30 plus years old. He told Maulana, the sheikh here, ever since you came, have you seen my 2 boys speaking in the presence of me? He says, I'm looking at your kids. Every single thing. I say one thing, they say, you say one thing, they say one thing. And he said, that's the day where I learned that. And he said, son, this, by the way, this is not from India, Pakistan. These none of them are Indian, Pakistan in this story. This is directly from Rasulullah. When he was approached by a group of people, the Prophet ﷺ said, let the elder from amongst you speak. I don't want the young guy speaking. When you're speaking to me on behalf of the tribe, I want the elder one from amongst you to be speaking. He taught us that there's a hierarchy in the tribe and a hierarchy in the family. And when the elders are speaking, the youngsters listen. One day you have your turn to speak. But guess what? You won't have anything beneficial to speak if you're always yada yada yada. Then you don't listen. There's a time to listen, and then there's a time to speak. So that doesn't mean we don't give our children. I know some of you immediately say, Sheikh, this makes no sense. Listen to the whole story. We're all about creating confident young men and women. We're all about creating people who can express themselves. But there is a time and place for that. Before you become big, learn how to become small. Then one day you will also become big. But the day you're born, you become big, wallahi, you'll never become big. You'll just be full of a massive ego, but won't have any character. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah wa bihamdihi, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
One quick announcement about the Salah timings. Starting tomorrow, Fajr will be at 6:15, Asr at 5, and Isha at 8 o'clock. So if you need